Okay, so today is the June 8th policy committee meeting. And April, did you get, or April and Diane, did you get the agenda?
I was just about to open it.
I sent it out very late and I apologize.
No worries.
I think we were going to go back to BBAB regarding the student school board representatives.
Right, and did you get the information that I sent you for that?
I got it. I haven't read it yet.
Okay.
Totally fine. I will forward this to you too, April.
Great.
And I'll forward it to Leah. So we had a couple of questions for the high school. Sue Ketch copied the sent to Diane and copied to building leadership that they suggested that the Scarborough High School student government be the entity that elects the junior rep for a 2-year term.
Okay.
Student council and the class officers.
Yeah.
And they think that it would make sense for the interested candidates to meet with the superintendent, board representatives, student council, and class officers to learn about the role of the school board rep and the commitment it takes. And that it would be good for the student government students to hear that information as well, so that they can consider the importance of this position when they're choosing their candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's helpful. I don't remember if that was my only question. Hey, April.
Yeah.
I know you're going to hate this question, but would you mind taking notes?
No. Sure.
Thank you.
All right, so I want to go back to, oh gosh. I hate it when your computer gives you this automatic thing, like software changes need to happen right away.
Yeah.
Like, no, not right now.
Of course.
In 90 minutes, please.
Okay, yep, those were the only 2 questions we had, so that was good. Okay, so if we go to BBAB, I think we did all of our work on BBAB, and we just needed to review BBABR for the current practice.
All right, the same nomination process. Oh, we got a lot done last time.
Yeah, we really did.
Yeah.
So we're going to change in what's now new paragraph 2. We'll say every May a member of the incoming junior class will be elected to a 2-year term by a vote of the, what was the language she used?
Yeah, I want to pull that up. Okay, so they say
Scarborough student government, which includes student council and class officers.
Yep.
So what? Sorry, can you say the language one more time?
Scarborough High School student government, including the student council and class officers. And then informational meeting.
So we agreed that May election with a June start, which is what happened last time.
Yep.
And then we go to the new paragraph 3, all students who submit nomination sheets for a student school board seat must attend an informational meeting held by, they recommend, why don't we say held by the student council and class officers, and may include, where's that wording again? May include board representatives and the superintendent. That way, if that doesn't happen, we're still, is that good with you?
Yep.
You okay with that, Diane?
Yep.
No changes to Board of Education. Student representatives will follow the, oh, you know what I did want to discuss? I thought it might be helpful to include something in here about contact. Maybe it's actually BBAB, but contact with a school board representative and a student school board representative.
So back in BABB,
Yeah. So it says they will act as liaisons between the board and student body. Maybe we want to discuss the role a little bit, as well as who can contact the student representatives and under what circumstances.
I think that's great. And I was going to say something similar in terms of, let's, if we can, if you guys think it's appropriate, like, let's really clearly define that, one of the kind of critical roles of the student representative is to facilitate the election of the new student representatives. Like the junior, whether we say specifically that has to be the junior or whatever, but that is like in the spring, that is part of the duties of the student rep.
So that was not laid out in Sue's plan. I think that happened this year with Max. I think he's on both.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Student council and a school board representative.
So you're fine with saying that it's, I guess I'm just nervous that if we give it over to the student government at the high school, that who contacts the student government to initiate it? Is it the school board chair or is it the student rep?
Mhm.
Maybe we should have the student rep be like the organizer, and then the student council can.
That's my thinking.
That's a great idea. Okay. So back to that BABR. All students who submit nomination sheets for a student school board seat. Oh, and now it's under the election part, remember? I vote. All right, so we'll,
It could be under the 3 where you say all students who submit nomination sheets for a student school board must attend an informational meeting organized by the current student rep and including.
okay, great.
Would that
Yep.
work?
Yes, that's great.
not on.
Then if we go to 2, maybe we say, before that last sentence in 2, say this election will be organized by the current student school board representative with assistance from the,
From building administration.
do you want building administration or student council?
Oh, yeah.
Let's say with assistance by, I like the building administration idea. How that
Yeah,
works.
just because the leaders might have to, make the time available or that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
No, that makes sense. Okay, perfect. That was a good suggestion, April. Thank you. Okay, so maybe we need to spell out in BBAB itself a little bit more what a liaison means.
So are you looking, I'm wondering are you looking to be able to explain that they represent the student perspective on board matters? Because like when you think about a liaison, it's kind of like I'm going to, that terminology makes it sound like come to me and bring me all of these things and then I'm going to bring them to the board.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the way that the board works.
Right. Well, we've had, I think some issues this year where I've thought to myself that this could be more clearly defined. I agree that it shouldn't be sort of like you can bring everything to the board. It definitely represents the individual student voice. It's really interesting because it is sort of a similar discussion to what we had when we were first elected as board members, and we were saying, well, what is our role and who are we representing? It's the students' best interests first, right?
Mhm.
And then Drummond Woodsum had the case law that said you don't really represent those who elected you, and I argued with them. And I kind of feel similarly on this too, right? I mean, they have to follow the procedures, but it shouldn't be a complaint, right? It shouldn't be like a complaint process.
Right.
And they shouldn't be subjected to complaints for voicing their opinion, I think. But on the other hand, if a student has a perspective that they want to bring to the attention, would they go to their student board rep? Or is the student board rep only acting as their own independent voice?
Hmm.
I think if it were more clearly laid out, it certainly makes sense that if you know something's going to be on the agenda, like snow day. I'm going to turn my video off.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
If you know something's going to be on the agenda like snow days and you want to go to the school board rep knowing that they're going to be part of that discussion at a board meeting, it's exactly the same as when constituents reach out to us and say, I would like this perspective discussed or thought about, so in that sense, that seems very level of the board, and it's a known board topic of conversation at a meeting, then students should feel like they could bring that conversation up with the board representative. But then, how do we differentiate between doing that and bringing things forward and putting the board representative in a position where they become the complaint line, which is exactly the position that we find ourselves in sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking right now at like Portland as an example, to see how their policy is written. And like, I like how it starts, like the language they use is the student representative to the Board of Education has a variety of important roles and responsibilities, including representing the views of students on matters of concern to students, encouraging involvement of students in educational affairs, convening meetings to provide information and receive input about proposed actions by the board, and participating in other events attended by board members. And then also being an articulate voice to the public on matters of concerns to students. So it really is all about that, student perspective and bringing that lens, right, as the board is considering, different issues and topics.
I love that. Are you able to cut and paste that and put it into our doc?
Let's see. And then you can wordsmith it from there.
Yeah, if we want to.
Okay. Yes, it looks like I can. I'm just gonna like toss it on the bottom.
Okay.
Do you see it?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And then, yeah.
What do you think about, okay, one of the concerns I have with that language is when it says including representing the views of students on matters of concern to students. I don't want that to be read as I, student Joe, have a concern and therefore you have a duty to present that to the school board. So should there be a within their discretion or some sort of language so that they can consider it, but they're not necessarily bound by that?
Yeah. There was another one I was looking at. Hang on. I've been looking at a couple of different ones. And now I can't find the other one that I was looking for, but I like the language on, of course. Hang on. Keep talking.
I'm just trying to wordsmith this one that you gave us.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's some pieces of it. I mean, obviously, we might not agree with it in totality, but I think the spirit of that voice is the piece that I thought was getting at what you were talking about.
Well, I changed this. Let me read this part to you. The student representative has a variety of important roles and responsibilities, and then I added this part in, including the discretion and ability to represent the views of students on matters, and then all of the other stuff that you said.
Yeah. See, like this piece here, I don't know, can you see when I highlight?
If I go back to it.
So like the section on convening student meetings, that would really be like outside of the board though, right? Like that might be like, oh, I'm gonna go have a meeting with the students so that I can get a better grasp on the student perspective and bring it to the board. So that would be a little bit, that might be a little bit more than what we were talking about here to date. I mean, could be good. Right, why did I see?
What if we set it a little bit more broadly, like
Mhm.
outreach to students to provide information and receive input about proposed actions by the board of the district? You're muted, April.
Sorry, I don't have Zoom open because I'm looking at all the docs.
I know.
Yeah, I like outreach to provide information and receive input rather than convene student meetings.
Right,
Okay,
yeah, because that seems like a really discrete thing, right?
yeah,
And then they'd be like, when am I gonna have the student meeting? How often do I have to have these student meetings, right? Like, it seems like a really discrete task. You write it in that way.
and that could cause all, I mean,
All right,
right. Do you like that paragraph as it is?
Will you explain your ad of discretion and ability?
Oh. Maybe it's just not articulated clearly enough. My worry again is that a student could approach the student school board representative and say, I want cheeseburgers for lunch every day, and I want you to go to the school board and tell them that I want them to require cheeseburgers for lunch every day. And I worry that the way it's written and that it doesn't articulate that the school board rep can consider the information, but they don't have to bring all of that information before the board and use that as sort of representative of the entire school board of student population.
Right, so like if we follow that logic, it's kind of the same argument as if I reached out to my local representative and said, I want you to bring this bill to Augusta. I want you to, underwrite it and see it forth. They might take my information, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going, to follow through with that if they're not in agreement about it.
So I'm happy to change that language more, April, if you think it's not clear enough. I mean, if you don't understand it, then I'm worried.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah, right. So I want to make it clear we are giving the school board rep the intent behind that language is to give the school board rep some decision making, it sounds like, in terms of being able to say thank you for your feedback, without making a guarantee or promise that they are going to bring that to the level of the full board. I feel like maybe that might be a lot for a junior or a young representative, in terms of still not being sure exactly what does come to the board and what doesn't. So that would be my concern, but I understand the intent is to is to give the student school board rep the autonomy to not feel obligated to bring, every request, like cheeseburgers.
You think you can turn your video off again?
I just worry people will, it doesn't happen now, I don't think, in excess. It does happen occasionally, and the school board questions or concerns either to the full board or to the chair, in terms of, oh, this thing is happening and people would like to see this on the school board agenda. And usually it's just a matter of saying and having a conversation and saying that hasn't risen to the level of the board, so that might be helpful feedback to go back to the student and let them know that that's not something that has risen to. Complicated. I'm sorry. Sure. I had not had a connection problem in the last couple of days. It's just been terrible.
Well, it was weird because you were super slow and then you were so fast.
You're talking so fast, we can hardly hear you.
I'm going to go and see if children are on devices, and I will be right back.
Thank you. Could you catch what she said, Diane?
It was just so fast. I felt like she was like a tape recorder on fast forward.
Yeah.
Right?
I was
Again, I think because I was like, my brain was listening so carefully to the slow, that when she made the transition to like the fast forward, it was like my brain was like not connecting.
Process it.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Is it any better?
Not really.
No, nobody's on devices here. They all acted very defensive that I would suggest that they were interfering.
That's
I'm not sure why I have a. Okay, all right.
We'll just now it is
with
your camera off, even though I like having the camera on.
I know. Sorry.
Do you mind repeating what you said?
I can try. So basically just, I understand the intent being that we're trying to give the school board rep the ability to say no, essentially, and just say, thank you for bringing this to my attention. That hasn't risen to the level of the board. And, in the event that there's a discussion on school nutrition, then perhaps I could bring up your concern about cheeseburgers. But that there's no requirement of the school board rep to bring things to the board just because someone comes to them. So I understand the intent of the language. I do, the word discretion, discretion of, let's see, the student representative of the board has a variety of important roles and responsibilities, including the discretion and ability to represent the views of students on matters. I think that's fine.
We could change it to including the ability to represent the views of students on matters of concern to students in the representative's discretion, but that.
No, I don't think that's necessary. I understand. I don't think there's a problem with it.
Now, question to both of you. We did sort of have some feedback about, I don't want to misframe the issue, but I guess we had some feedback that caused me to say to myself, when we review this policy, what is is there anything that needs to be included in the policy to delineate that the student representative doesn't hold a duty to the general public?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think you've outlined that here in some way by saying that they are an articulate voice on matters of concerns to students. But
Except if it's a public, if it's a member of the public who's also a parent,
mhm.
then does that allow them to say, this is a matter that is of concern to my student?
Do you think you get at that in the second line where it says to represent the views of students?
Yeah, I think you could say that. Yeah. What about you, April?
Yeah. You know, I had a unique perspective as chair because, you know, we didn't feel like this was clear, and even going through the policy with our student reps this year in terms of whether or not they are or should interact with members of the community, you know, because my personal feeling on it was that members of the community should interact with their peers and that the students should interact with their peers. But I realized in looking at the policy that that was an assumption that I was making. And so I would like it if that was laid out, you know, clearly, because I do think that that intent of having the school board rep, student rep, is so that they interact with their peers, not necessarily the parents of students or outside community members.
So what I'm going to suggest then is
We're-
that it's in paragraph 2, we take out the liaison language, insert that lower paragraph language.
Mhm.
And then I think that we should do a full, change this to 4.0 and put that there, public.
Yes. You had gotten rid of.
Oh, thank you. I'm just going to try to type something out just to get it down, and then we can head it up for edits.
Sure.
Yeah, and then I guess the only other question that comes up for me is in regards to when a student council representative is being an articulate voice on matters of concerns to students, should there be a distinction between whether that is their own voice or if, you know, like they've checked in with the student council and the class officers so that, you know, it is a representative opinion versus a personal opinion. You know, I think that's always, you know, the challenge, I think, in terms of being a representative, whether you're a student or an adult, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that the student representatives should absolutely have the ability to be both. I think there are times when, you know, you say I'm representing, the student body, this is the feedback I'm getting, and then there are times when, as a school student, I prefer cheeseburger,
Right.
And that's clear that it's, you know, your personal preference.
Right.
Can you see that proposed language under 4L?
Yeah.
I would like to say that I do want to address, I look at our other policies about communication. I mean, I don't know how we can dictate the behavior of third parties, but I do think that in terms of for our students, we can set an expectation, and I don't know if we have one, that parents are not, that it's our expectation that parents are not communicating with students.
Well, I was thinking about that the other day, you know, because my son shares the same name as his grandfather, who is a math teacher at the high school. And so we sometimes get
His
emails
emails.
for Ben's grandpa, and and I obviously oversee my third grader's email account. So I just quickly send someone an email and say, "Oh, you've got the wrong Ben," blah blah blah. But the kids can't get, at least at our phase level, the kids can't get email from outside Scarborough Public Schools.
That's
And
good.
so to me, I feel like that protection is there, but I don't know if that's the case district-wide.
But a parent could use their student's email address to. So if I had a concern that I told my child I wanted them to bring to a student board representative, I could say, can you please contact that student board representative? And then if they didn't, I could use their email address and contact the student board representative myself, right?
Sure. And so I think probably if we go through policy, it would make the most sense to me to just double check that net use agreement, that it says that their email is only for their own personal use. Right? Because the but the point you're making, you know, also would make me nervous about students using each other's accounts to email, you know, like, and that's obviously a violation of their internet use policy. So I would just want to make sure that it says clearly that personal email accounts are for the intended owner of that account. And then if we had any problem, we could lean on that policy rather than one specific to our school board rep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That good, that language in 4, good with you guys?
Yep.
Okay. Oops, I should have taken that. So, wait, do we do a show of hands vote when we're meeting in person? Or have we always done a roll call vote?
No, we do show of hands when we're all in person.
Okay, we do.
Yeah. Yeah, the roll call was established as part of being remote, it was the checks and balances to make sure that everyone had audio and, was being fairly represented.
I can barely remember the meetings before, right? Because
No,
I was literally only in this position for 2 months. And so I'm like thinking back and going like, no, I think I've always done roll call, but that's because I've been in this position pretty much only during this pandemic.
that's awful,
Yeah.
Diane.
Mm.
Well, do we want to add by show of hands or roll call vote in paragraph 1?
Yeah, I think that updates the current, reflects the current situation. Or
Yep.
Okay, so I think that this is good from my perspective. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, my only question on like that 4.0 is, does that word with belong before the word parents?
Check it out.
yep, that's fine.
So are they both ready for first reading?
They look like they could be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Student school board representation. Okay. I think we're gonna do DE.
Okay.
That's board standing committees. That's in, you can find that in the policy committee drive under policies under review. Oh my God, I obviously did this and not Kelly because the formatting's all messed up.
What's the letters? Sorry, now I'm in a
B-
different
That's okay, BDE.
BDE. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mhm. There we go.
Gosh, that's strong language. Can we take out as it finds and just say only as strictly necessary?
Yes, please.
Mhm.
So like prescriptive.
Yeah.
Do our standing committees study operations?
I mean, I think that's really form language, but I would say yes. I would say, you know, right off the top of my head, like finance and long-range facilities planning, curriculum. I mean, operations obviously has a different connotation to each committee, but I would say,
Mhm.
Okay. So is that good? Paragraph one? Formatting is all messed up. I'm terrible in Google Docs with
Yeah,
formatting.
formatting is a mess. Kelly can fix that for us.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we know that 2.2 is an issue, right? No, no, it's under 5.
I'm also gonna, excuse me, share with both of you the sample policy for BDE from MSMA.
Oh, thank you.
Yep, so we can just kind of take a peek at that and see how it compares. I'll send it to Leanne as well, even though she's not with us today. All right, you should have it now, or it's flying over.
Well, as you're sending that, I'll tell you that my daughter came home today and said that they had a guest today at their school, I'm assuming virtually, who read them a chapter of their book, and it was our superintendent to be.
Oh, nice.
She
Yeah,
thought she
Yep.
thought that was pretty cool.
yep. That is really nice.
All right, I got it. Thank you. A great way to get an introduction.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we have a staff member in our district who's a member of that school board.
Oh,
And so I think that was the connection there from what I
great,
had
great
heard.
idea. I loved it.
Yeah, this seems pretty similar to what we have. It's certainly pretty close.
Mhm. Seems a little bit more organized.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the narrative quality of the first part of this too.
Yeah, I do too.
But you know what I hate about this when this happens is like, what document are we?
Right.
Do you want to do what we did before and
You want me to just copy and paste it in?
into the bottom and then we'll edit from there?
Yep.
And then we can take the good parts of our policy and put it into the good parts of theirs, maybe?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. I'm glad you can do it.
Yep. All right, I'm going to put it at the bottom. All right. I'll go in.
Okay.
Why does it only start with H? Hang on, maybe I didn't do it right. It didn't all go in there, did it?
No.
Let's try again. Yeah. Download version. Okay. Go back over.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. Right, like don't let the craziness of the formatting get in our way here. Clean this up a little bit.
Okay, so the board believes that standing committees can be useful to its decision-making process and in the transaction of board business. The board may establish such standing committees as it deems necessary to facilitate school unit governance and address ongoing school unit needs. A standing committee has only such authority as specified by the board. Love that.
Yep, that's all fine with me.
Comprised of less than a majority of the board, yes.
Yep.
Open to the public. Establishment and functions of standing committees. The following provisions apply. All standing committees shall be established by vote of the board. A motion to establish a standing committee shall state the purpose and responsibilities of the committee, the charge, and set the number of members comprising the committee.
So I want to make sure that, we're all using the same language and, not talking ourselves in circles. This to me and what we have on our website says that, the finance committee, for example, would be a standing committee.
Right.
And so then if you,
Uh-oh.
no, I'm still here. I was just
Oh.
thinking. I realized that I cut my own word off. So then if we read this first one, a motion to establish a standing committee. So that to me almost seems like at that first meeting, you know, or second meeting in November, that the board is voting to form a finance committee,
I
a
don't-
policy committee, a curriculum committee. You don't read it that way?
Wow, I read it that in order to initially form a standing committee, that's the
Okay.
process that would be followed.
Well, because then it goes on to say that all standing committees are dissolved at the end of the board's year.
I think they mean membership.
Right. I think that's what it means too. It's just that, you know, there's a reassignment that takes place, that it's not just, you know, because you're a board member and you served on X committee, you're going to be on that committee for the tenure of your,
Okay.
the
Well,
position.
to clear it up, why don't we say all standing committees shall initially be established
Mm-hmm.
by vote of the board?
Great.
Does that take care of that? Clarify
Yep.
it?
Yep.
Right. And then if you look at B follows suit by saying the board chair appoints the members, and then for existing standing committees, appointments are made annually. So I think
Perfect.
that, you know, that backs that up.
Yeah. I'd love to be able to say when our annually is.
Yeah.
Look at when
Somewhere.
the new board is seated, right?
Well,
This is the one that says that all standing committees, we have a policy somewhere in the previous paragraph, maybe up top in our policy, it does say by December 2nd.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep, it
Well-
says will be formed annually no later than the second meeting in December.
Well,
Or
I
the
mean,
second.
isn't the town charter deciding that issue about whether board members are gonna be elected in June or in November?
Yep.
Yeah, so if you wanted to, you could say no more than the second meeting after any election,
The election of new members or the
Right.
election of,
after a school board election takes place.
Well, what if you? Well, we could, I'm just thinking, what if nobody's elected that year? What if we said in the month in which school board members are elected? April. I mean, it's so complicated because we don't know where we're
Right.
gonna wind up,
Right.
and we're trying to address it for either scenario.
yeah,
So
no,
how about- Go ahead.
to be formed no later than, yeah. Because then I'm trying to think, sometimes depending on when the election is in November, we only have one meeting afterwards. And is that enough time? You know, there's a reason why that I think it says the second meeting in December is to give a new board who needs time to organize time. We've been fortunate and haven't had a ton of, you know, significant turnover. So we haven't needed a lot of time to reorganize, but I don't know how to word it more cleanly.
Yeah, I just wrote in, like, if we got rid of the school board's annual organizational meeting and we just said appointments will be made at or as soon as practical, well, I can't say that, after a school board election. So we're just basically saying, as soon as it's practical, there's been a school board election. And, you know, because if you say within the same month, if it's a November meeting, if it's a November election, there may not be time to make that happen within the same month.
Yeah, well, I agree with that totally. The only concern I have with that is that I think that there was a design that the board members would be elected intermittently, right? And the recall screwed that up. And so now I wonder if there's either that or through a resignation or whatever, is it possible that you would not have a board member elected in a given year?
Yeah, it's tricky.
And it's 5 o'clock and all of our brains are like, oh, this standing committee's appointed.
I mean, what if, yeah, I think, can that happen? I don't know if it can at this point, that we wouldn't have a seat open. I mean, at this point, we're back to normal, quote unquote, normal, you know, we have 1 year that it's 3, but then the other years it's 2.
Right, because the recall people didn't get
Or
a
reset,
year
like
term,
one
they finished up the
yeah.
term.
So we're all
Yeah.
reset. Now, what would happen? What would happen if somebody resigned?
We can choose to hold a special election to fill their seat to the end of that existing term.
Okay.
Or we can leave the seat vacant and then a regular election would take place for that seat.
Okay.
So
So
I
then
don't
we'll-
think there's a scenario where we would not have a seat available.
Perfect. So Diane, will you put your language in?
Yeah.
Because I can't remember how you worded it.
Right, is that what we're talking about? Oh, and I didn't have myself in editing mode, I'm sorry. Suggesting mode, I should do that.
That's fine. So it seems a little bit weird to me because appointments will be made at the school board election. I think they mean at next meeting, at the meeting following. I don't know. That's weird,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I would get rid of that.
Yeah.
As soon as,
You is okay, April, with that being sort of loosely worded as soon as practicable after a school board election takes place?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
and then that, you know, if the charter changes, we don't have to go back and update our policy.
Yeah, perfect. Our chair may also make appointments to standing committee vacancies on standing committees that occur prior to the board's next organizational meeting. May or shall.
Shall
For D,
or will? Like everything else says will, why wouldn't we have will?
What if it's 1 month before the meeting?
There's a combination of shalls and wills. They should be like uniform.
Yeah.
yeah, I think
that-
the board will also make appointments.
Mm-hmm.
Takes care of that. The term of appointment to a standing committee shall be until the next organizational meeting.
Yeah, I think that terminology is confusing. Organizational meeting, like I understand that it's that annual appointment, but is there a clearer way to state that? because I think people could get hung up with, well, when is an organizational meeting happen? What's the definition of that?
I agree.
To the board's annual, like, can we say annual? Like, what do we call that when like the new board is seated and we have a workshop with, Melissa to go over the duties and the responsibilities? It's not like the initiation meeting, but it's, yeah, I'm kind of blank here. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not helping. Yeah, like our onboarding
Yeah.
work, training workshop. But so like just taking the language out, like what actually happens. So the term of appointment to a standing committee shall be until,
For a period of 1 year and will expire.
Or until the next general election. Because what if we use that example that you guys were talking about a minute ago, and someone leaves the board and you have a vacancy and you decide to make an appointment or have a special election, and there's only 5 months until the next board election happens, and so it's going to be a short seat. If we write that it's 1 year,
Right.
that's kind of really fixed.
Yeah, that's a problem. You're right. But it's also a problem to say in the election, though, I think, because then that will give us potentially a month with no committee. Right? If your term expires on the election date and then the chair doesn't appoint for a month.
I mean, I think that is kind of how we operate, honestly.
Which is fine when it's not an emergency, but what if we have something that we need to do? We've got to.
Yeah.
So we just need to buckle down and figure out the language. That's okay. We can do it.
Term of appointment shall be until.
How about until a board member's term expires or
Renews.
or when new
committee members are appointed by the chair.
went to paragraph 8. Or when new committee members are appointed by the chair. Perfect.
Yeah.
The term of appointment to a standing committee shall be until a board member's term expires. Or when new committee members are appointed by the board chair. Is that good?
Yes.
Or should we say term of service on the board? Oh, this says each standing committee will elect its own chair.
Hold on, I want to go back to D quick.
Okay.
Can we say, or when the new committee members are appointed by the board chair annually?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because this to me makes it sound like once you're on a committee, you're on it until your term expires or until the chair appoints new committees. But do we have something that says the chair will appoint new committees annually?
P, right?
Can we put the word annually before when? I think it makes more sense. Or annually. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And then, yeah, E is not what we do.
Well, then maybe we should do annually up on B too. The board chair will appoint members to a standing committee.
They
From
will
among-
annually appoint.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have E, each standing committee will elect its own chair. That's not our current practice.
So if, you know, if that's not our practice and we don't like it, we certainly don't need to keep it.
Yeah. Well, how do you think, April, that it's working with the chair appointing, the board chair appointing the committee chairs?
I can see the merits of doing it either way. You know, I can appreciate that each individual on the board can advocate for themselves directly to the chair, and then there's just a single decision maker. And that way there's no politicking or tension. And obviously I'm not talking about our current situation, because one of the things we're always talking about is take us out of it and think about a different group of people.
Yeah.
And where there may be some strong arming or politicking happening at the committee level. And the way we do it now, there's a safeguard against that. Because the chair is elected by the full board, and then that is one of the duties of the chair. And so the full board on confidence in the chair to make that decision, I see the value in that.
Well, the other
Not
thing
everybody's happy all the time, but
sometimes they'll remind you of their pleasure. No, that's the start committee. Well, the one thing I really don't like about having the standing committee electing its own chair is that then you're without a chair for a period of time.
Right.
All right, so where is it up in our current policy where it says, oh, it says the board chair will appoint the committee chair and members.
so we could just take E out.
And then put it up above.
And then, right, it would have to go in B, that the board chair will annually appoint members and chairs to standing committees.
Will annually appoint the chair and how about annually appoint,
Committee chair and members. A committee chair and members.
So we have above, the board chair will appoint the committee chair and members.
wait, where?
In
Are you
the,
T
in
and
the
B?
policy. Yep.
Yeah, in our existing policy, yeah.
Oh. So under B now of the model policy, the board chair will annually appoint a committee chair and members to a standing committee from among the membership of the board. Does that take care of that?
Mhm.
It does.
The board chair and superintendent shall be ex officio, non-voting members of all standing committees. Well, that's E now. And F. Any board member may attend standing committee meetings, but only appointed members of the committee may vote. this where we want to put about something about public participation?
Let's see where that is. Well, we have in our current policy, all standing committee meeting agendas, when appropriate, will be posted in ample time to allow public attendance and will be disseminated in a manner reasonably calculated to notify the public. And then there's also 4.0, which is all standing committee meetings will be open to the public except as provided for in the Freedom of Access law.
And then I'd also like to say what our position is on public participation in standing committees, that should be like, I think my personal opinion is that it should be at the discretion of the committee chair. I'm interested in what you two think.
Do you mean offering public comment, or the way the meeting itself is conducted?
I don't understand your question.
So I would not be opposed to requiring that all of our standing committees take public comment. So is that what you mean by public participation? Or do you mean informally when we have people pop by a communications committee meeting and we engage with them during the meeting?
Yeah, I guess that's interesting.
Yeah, I think you definitely want to kind of outline which of those two it is. And again, I think that's intertwined with public participation at board meetings, policy BEDH.
BEDH, I gotta go back. God, I need a new window.
I have so many tabs open in my computer.
I know,
roll.
I was afraid that was my connection, and I was like, oh no, if I close this, I'll never remember to go back and look at this.
Yeah. You just have to know where your anchors are, right?
Yeah. Well, do we like the language about the agenda and all of that?
Our own language, 4.1.
Yeah.
How does that read in comparison to our board protocols?
Oh, so here's, again, I'm over here researching some things. So as I'm looking at BEDH, and I'm looking at the model policy for that, and that's that public participation at school board meetings.
Yeah.
There's a paragraph at the end of it that says opportunity for public participation at board subcommittee meetings is not required but may be permitted in accordance with the board's policy and/or rules pertaining to the operation of subcommittees, or may be permitted at the discretion of the subcommittee chair.
Where's that?
Oh, this is in model policy for the public participation. Because what I was trying to do is figure out where the linkage could be between the two of those. Because if you have a policy on public participation, it should state what we expect in the board meetings and in the subcommittee meetings, right? So then that way you don't have to insert it into all of these separate policies. So that's I think that's one of our policies that's also up for review. So, I think this would be a good addition and would clarify for this particular policy. We could provide that linkage between the two. So, so if we wanted to kind of, I have to download it first. Hang on. I was going to say if we wanted to kind of take a little bit of that language, I could pop it in there. Maybe. Oh, yeah.
Or when did we start on the board?
2019. 18. Oh my gosh, 18.
So then we go
Thank you. You know my time.
right here.
Opportunity for public
We could say,
like that.
does that work?
And then maybe we should say, and she'll comply with the requirements.
Accordance with.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Well, I would like to say that they're going to be, that they're expected to uphold the same standards that are, something like that, that are detailed in BEDH.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that we say at the bottom? Cross-reference?
Yeah.
How about we say something like,
As outlined in, yeah. Yeah, that's good.
so it's EF, so we G.
Now we're back to H. There we go. Oh,
Oh, do you want it in one?
no, I think they probably should be two because they are two separate things.
I keep forgetting that people can't see, so if anybody
Oh,
watches this, I don't know if anybody does, but I should probably read it out loud. Except as authorized by law or board action, a standing committee may research issues and make recommendations for board action, but may not act for the board.
mhm.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. A standing committee may be abolished at any time by a vote of the board.
Yep.
The number of members on a standing committee and or the responsibilities of a standing committee may be modified at any time by a vote of the
Perfect.
Shouldn't that say, like, when they say a vote of the board, shouldn't it be like, whatever, maybe I'm just being,
And then that's where we could,
a consensus vote of the,
By a affirmative.
affirmative vote of the board, okay.
and then in the next section, we could lift the language above that outlines the committees.
So we should probably review that.
I can copy and paste it down there, so then that way we're in the same section.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
What just happened?
I don't know.
Yeah. We'll just do one. Finance Committee to oversee fiscal management, including the operating budget, audit invoices submitted for payment, and review and recommend action on outside auditors' letter of recommendations to management.
Yeah, these look pretty much in line with what we're doing.
Do you want me to ask the policy chairs if they're okay with the descriptions, or do you want us to just say if we're okay with the descriptions?
I think when we do first reading, that would be appropriate. Like if these are going out for first reading for the June, I mean, I don't know if this one will be ready, but whatever, then I could include in my update, like, everyone please review the language and
Yeah,
come prepared to first reading with, comments or changes. So I think like we should definitely just take care of it now. And if we think that these are good, then this is what we should present for first reading, and, with the understanding that current chairs or other members of the board could make comments at first reading.
no, that's a great idea. Thank you. Okay, so negotiations committee to oversee collective bargaining between the board and employee groups for the purpose of negotiations and other employment contracts, conduct negotiations and present progress reports to the board as a whole. Should we put negotiations committee meetings are not open to the public?
Well, I think at the top, it says that the meetings are public, except for as provided by the Freedom of Access Law and the Municipal Public Employees Labor Relations Law. So it's kind of right at the beginning of the policy.
But you're okay with not spelling it out that negotiations is specifically one of those?
I am. Don't you guys, I've never served on negotiations, but don't you guys decide at the beginning between the two bodies whether it's going to be a closed negotiation or not?
Yes.
And so to me, I wouldn't want to make a policy that would say that it has to be a closed negotiation if that wasn't the will of the two people who were bargaining. So, or two bodies rather.
Yeah.
Okay. Policy review to systemically review, develop, and recommend changes to existing policies on an ongoing basis to identify new policy areas to be addressed by the board and outdated policies to be deleted.
Good.
Outreach and communication task team.
So maybe we just call it the communications
Committee.
Mhm.
Yes, I mean, shorthand, we've been doing that for as long as I've been on the board.
Yeah.
But technically on the website as the communications task force.
Develop and oversee the school board communication strategy and maintain an effective communication system between the district and public. So that's a problem. Because I mean, the district has its own communication strategy, and we've maintained that it's not the purpose of the school board communication committee to manage the communication between the district and the public.
Yes.
So what do we want to say about that? Make recommendations? Or just leave it after strategy?
Or do we want to take the word district?
What?
Well, the word district is the sticking point.
Yeah. Maintain effective communications
With
maintain
the public?
with the public.
Yeah.
Maintain an effective communication system with the public. Okay. 5. Long-range facilities planning. Oversee long-range facilities planning, including enrollment projections, programmatic needs, and the health and safety of the facilities. Review and recommend actions related to long-range facilities needs. I'll skip over to
So I'm writing in right now, like, so see these great little things, like I keep all of these things. So these are all the standing committees. And so the one that we don't have that is a long-standing committee is curriculum committee. So I think that we want to make sure that that's in there because that is not one that's just been put together for a special project, right?
Agreed. And we talked about that at retreat. It's funny, I have the retreat agenda open all the way back from January, because that was one of the loose ends of that retreat.
And again, the language that I'm pulling is right from this slide. So it's certainly subject to change, but I'm just copying in there what has already been put in there.
I think that's great.
Okay.
So I'll read that. Curriculum committee collaborate with the director of curriculum and assessment on formulating the curriculum and assessment action plan, communicate the K-12 curriculum guide externally and internally.
So I wonder, like, if a curriculum guide is like too specific or tangible, is it more about communicating what the K-12 curriculum is versus I don't think that we can point to a guide.
Okay, good.
Okay. Good.
Is there a curriculum and assessment action plan, Diane?
Well, I think like that's the review plan in terms of the plan of action that we have. And like, for example, we had a curriculum committee meeting this morning, and that was part of the agenda to discuss, you know, what that should be looking like.
Should we say that and then reference the whatever it is, one with the J's?
Oh, IJJ,
Yeah.
policy IJJ. I think, yeah, we probably should reference that.
Okay.
That's
Do you want to throw down some proposed language for the curriculum review, and I'll pull up the easy part. The curriculum review cross-reference.
All right, so I'll put it in the cross-reference where it is. There we go.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So what are we saying about the curriculum committee does what in terms of the curriculum review? It oversees it, it makes recommendations, it determines when it should occur in conjunction with the superintendent. Like what's the board's role in that?
So I think, again, if you go back to our policy IJJ, you know, as it relates to curriculum, basically it is the, you know, the superintendent who consults with administrators and professional staff to select appropriate educational materials. And then that is more in terms of keeping the board informed about that. And that was like part of our discussion this morning, was in relationship to being able to keep the board informed about curriculum would require or calls for us to make sure that that is a regular report out, right? And so when committees report out, we should be giving some regular curriculum updates in the same way that we're updating these other committees, right? Because curriculum and assessment is really in the forefront of everything that we do. And so to not have that as a monthly like update, it is awkward, right?
Yep.
So that was, you know, a piece of our discussion this morning, was making sure that as we, you know, was kind of clarifying a little bit of that charge and making sure that those communication lines are open.
So just so I'm clear, what was your, I don't think I fully understood. What was your like takeaway or bottom line with that? This committee itself is not responsible for that. It's the superintendent's responsibility.
For the selection of materials, yes. For that.
Well, and for the review, like, does the curriculum committee say, does the curriculum committee, like, if the curriculum committee says, oh, we haven't reviewed our curriculum in 50 years, we're making does it have the authority to make a recommendation for?
Right. And so, for example, in our meeting today, part of the discussion was looking at a timeline and looking at, you know, where we stand in different content areas and when they were last reviewed. So that was a point of information So then the curriculum director can go back and kind of put together a timeline of, what seems feasible. And then, of course, the board committee can also make recommendations about, what those, how those proposals stand for them.
You think that that should be in the committee policy or not?
Well, I guess I'm not sure, because if we look at the way these other committees are described, they're pretty succinct.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that sentence where it talks about formulating the curriculum and assessment action plan, maybe it's not just formulating, but maybe it's also monitoring,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
I think both of those pieces are important, because it's one thing to say, oh, we're going to work together to put a plan together. But if we're not monitoring it and checking it, then there's that loss of checks and balances.
Okay, so we'll put add in monitoring. I think that's great.
Yep, I do too.
Okay, liaison serve as a means of communication between different groups connected to the school district, maintain communication between designated groups and the school board. Designated groups listed below: legislative, MSBA. Wait, aren't those two different currently? Legislative and MSBA?
I wouldn't say we have an MSBA liaison.
We don't? What is it called when you go and you've done it most recently, the MSBA?
I mean, I went to you mean the regional meeting?
Yeah,
I don't know. Invitation was just sent to chairs. So I don't know that that's necessarily
but you did it before you were chair, right?
to MSBA. I don't think so.
You didn't? What, at the retreat
Oh,
thing?
you're talking about the delegate assembly?
Yeah,
We have to appoint the delegate from the board to the delegate assembly per policy every year anyway. That's like
Okay, so
something
we're set.
completely separate. But do you think that's referencing maybe?
what?
Do you think that's what that's referencing, that MSBA
I
references?
wondered. Yeah, that's what I was
references
thinking,
the delegate assembly?
maybe. But if there's a policy that covers it, I don't think we need it.
No, I don't think we do either. And
I'm just gonna take MSBA out then.
that's fine. Those are not the only liaison roles. I mean, town
Right.
council is not listed.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at those right now. So again, if we look at them, there's legislative, vocational, teacher evaluation, town council. Then there is also the charter committee, the health, safety, and advisory team, the comprehensive needs assessment planning team, dropout prevention. I mean, there's a ton of these.
So
District
we went,
District
Yeah.
communications is listed as a liaison, but we have a committee.
well, there used to be a district communications committee. So,
Mhm.
and that committee is dissolved. So we
Okay.
went through at the retreat and basically with all of us in the room said, is there a need for this?
Right.
You know, is anyone filling this role currently, and kind of whittled those down.
Yep.
Because you're right, there's so many and they're outdated.
Mhm.
I'm gonna put our current policy language in for liaisons because it is some explanation.
Yeah.
Did we say up above that the board chair will appoint the liaisons?
I don't think we did.
That it's there. Oh, actually, it's there. Sorry. All right, well, let me find where we should put that in.
All right, so I'm gonna have to have a hard stop in 10 minutes because it's approaching 6 o'clock.
Oh, sorry, I was hoping we were
That's
gonna
okay.
be done by
No,
now.
that's fine.
So in B, I'm gonna say the board chair will annually appoint a committee chair, members to a standing committee, and any liaisons from among the membership of the board. Is that okay with you?
Yep.
Mhm. So if we,
Right, I think we're done.
what about that list of liaisons? Do you feel like that
Oh, need
covers?
to add, oh, sorry, we need to add the other ones in.
Well, I want to make sure that what we have is accurate,
Yeah,
because I heard April say
Yeah.
that you had all talked about that.
can you list them again?
So admittedly, I'll have to dig out my notes from the retreat because I know I made a list and I don't have that right. I don't have that notebook right here. And so what I can do is I can locate those notes and then just
Add them.
send the list. And
Okay.
so we'll have those. And it's literally just, it is what we talked about at retreat in January. And we just went through and said, yes, we still have town council. No, we don't have CNA. And we just
Okay.
went through. And I apologize, I don't have that right here.
So what I'm gonna do then is I'll go through this and I'll say yes to all of the edits. And then I'll get these to Kelly and ask her to format them. And then if you can just send me the list and we'll add that to the list. And then we'll be
Yeah.
ready for first reading.
Yep, I'm adding it to the agenda notes now and I will make sure that I get that done.
Thank you. When's our next meeting?
That's a very good question. Well, we have been meeting on this, second Tuesday of the month.
Second Tuesday of the month is
But
the 13th,
As we
July
go-
13th.
Oh, I could do that.
Okay.
What time do you want to do?
Can you do 4 to 5:30 still? In the summer?
I can.
You don't want to, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm fine to do that. That's fine. I can modify my day.
What do you mean? If that's bad,
No, I
It's
totally
better.
get, you've got a lot of things going on, so no worries.
what do you prefer, Diane?
I really don't have a preference. It's totally fine with me.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay.
Completely fine.
I don't know what your summer days look like, so
My summer days look like my school year days, except,
do they?
hopefully I'll have a little bit of vacation time. And I hope I won't be on jury duty that week because I'll still be calling in.
Unreal.
Bye.
Unreal.
Oh my.
And does Jeff
Well,
start?
and we'll also set July 1. So if we're talking about next policy meeting, Jeff would be
Mhm.
included with us. Yeah.
So how do we go about getting him an invite?
So he doesn't have a school email yet. So I think what we'll have to do is wait until that happens and then just make sure that there are going to be lots of things to morph him into.
Yeah.
So
So
I
we'll
imagine
just-
that's going to be a specific task.
We'll
Yeah.
just have Kelly populate his calendar. It'll be fun.
I was just gonna say, maybe I'll ask Kelly to.
Welcome to Scarborough.
He's gonna wake up at 12:01 on July 1st to his phone going bzz, 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 with all the
Oh.
notifications for calendar invites.
Right.
Stressful.
Right. Well, I think we got a lot accomplished here today. So this is
Ahead
great.
of us.
Yes, we did.
That was good.
We're on a roll here lately.
It feels good to get those done.
Mhm.
Okay, and I will make sure that Kelly knows that those are ready for first read in terms of when she does the draft agenda toward the end of this
Awesome.
week. Those are on there.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you
Hope you
very
both
much.
enjoy your night.
Thank you. You
I
too.
hope you beat the rain, Diane.
Is it raining?
I don't know, it's supposed to rain at like
Yeah,
6.
this morning when I left for work, I actually like put the tops on my Jeep because I was like, okay, my luck, it's gonna start pouring by the time I get home. So
Good
called
idea.
myself up there and took care of that.
Was-
All right,
Thank you.
see you guys soon.
Good night, guys.
Have a good night.